Listen, we know he hates us.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is losing his mind again, and this time, it's all because of Jimmy Kimmel's brutal roasting. The former president, who famously can't take a joke, went into full meltdown mode, launching a rant so ridiculous it could be its own comedy special. Kimmel, of course, isn't backing down, he's doubling down. Sometimes you just need a break from the madness. That's exactly what Jimmy Kimmel must have thought when he packed his bags, turned off his phone, and escaped into the wilderness for a much-needed camping trip. No news, no politics, no Twitter meltdowns, just him, nature, and maybe a couple of marshmallows over a fire. After years of dealing with the never-ending circus of Donald Trump, Kimmel probably thought he had earned a little peace and quiet.
There were no motors or phones or anything allowed. And when I got off the river, my phone clicked on and I just got message after message after message about Trump bashing us.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, I'm back in civilization. But what I would love to do is for you and I to go down there, maybe because, he's in some legal trouble.
Yeah.
For an entire week, he was surrounded by nothing but towering trees, chirping birds, and the calming sounds of a river flowing nearby. No breaking news alerts, no frantic text messages, no Trump tantrums. Just pure, unfiltered relaxation. But of course, reality has a way of slapping you in the face the moment you step back into civilization.
Empathetic human beings, no
nice
less.
people. Yeah. I think we should bring him a whole bunch of little bottles of ketchup. Because you're not allowed to eat in the courtroom, not allowed to drink in the courtroom. Ketchup falls in that kind of gray area.
As soon as Kimmel returned home and powered up his phone, it practically exploded with notifications. His inbox was overflowing with messages from friends, colleagues, and fans all asking the same thing. Did you see what Trump said about you? At first, Kimmel must have thought it was just another one of Trump's usual grumbles. Maybe a tweet or two about how all the late-night hosts are fake news or some nonsense like that. But oh no, this wasn't just a couple of angry posts. This was a full-scale meltdown. Trump had gone off the rails, launching an all-out war against Kimmel in a flurry of all-caps tweets, unhinged rants, and absolutely ridiculous insults.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk.
It was as if Trump had spent the entire week waiting for Kimmel to get back, just so he could unload every ounce of his bitterness onto the internet. For Kimmel, it must have been both hilarious and weirdly satisfying. I mean, think about it. Trump, the former president of the United States, was obsessing over a late-night comedian while dealing with multiple criminal investigations. Instead of focusing on his actual problems, Trump was rage-tweeting about Kimmel like a teenager after getting roasted in a group chat. The sheer number of Trump's outbursts made one thing painfully obvious. Jimmy Kimmel was living rent-free in Trump's head. And the best part? He hadn't even done anything new. Trump was still reeling from jokes that had already aired before Kimmel even left for his trip. That's how much it got under his skin.
Gray area.
Condiments are allowed, yeah.
That I think he could get away with a little bit of that. How close do you think we could get to him? And I mean emotionally.
Well, the funny thing is based on the amount of people there, we could just go and wait in line and get in, and he'd be so rattled if we were there.
Trump isn't exactly Shakespeare when it comes to insults. His go-to move is usually some version of loser, fake, or sad. But this time, he really outdid himself. It was as if he spent a solid week brainstorming the dumbest possible ways to attack Kimmel. And he delivered. First up, there was the classic no talent hack. Oh, Trump, you sweet delusional man. Calling someone a no talent hack would actually mean something if it wasn't coming from the same guy who bankrupted a casino and somehow managed to lose money running a steak company. Kimmel has been a successful comedian and late-night host for decades. Trump, on the other hand, is the guy whose entire brand is built on pretending to be richer than he actually is. If anyone here is faking it, it's definitely not Jimmy.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
Then came the desperate, failing late-night loser insult. This one is hilarious for a couple of reasons. First, Kimmel's show is not failing. He's one of the most popular late-night hosts in the country. Meanwhile, Trump's own big comeback on social media has been such a flop that even his own fans aren't using his platform, Truth Social. Second, who is Trump to call anyone a loser? This is a man who lost 2 popular votes, got impeached twice, and is currently drowning in so many legal problems that even his lawyers are probably Googling how to quit being a lawyer. But the best, most hilariously unhinged insult of them all? Trump called Kimmel a wet carrot personality. I mean, what? What does that even mean? Is it an insult? Is it a compliment? Is he saying Kimmel is like a carrot because he's healthy and good for you? Or is this just another case of Trump blurting out the first 2 words that pop into his head and hoping they make sense?
It says, Trump White House pressured Disney to censor Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Disney is the company that owns ABC, our network, and Jimmy Kimmel is me, so obviously I was interested.
Kimmel, of course, didn't let these ridiculous insults slide. When he got back on air, he laughed them off the way any rational person would. But let's be real, he didn't need to respond. The fact that Trump was losing his mind over a few jokes was already the funniest thing about the whole situation. Kimmel didn't just roast Trump, he broke him. So why is Trump so obsessed with Jimmy Kimmel? Why is he throwing full-scale tantrums over a comedian when he's got much bigger problems to worry about? The answer is simple. Kimmel's jokes hit too close to home.
But according to the story, in 2018, Donald Trump, who was at that time president of the United States, was so upset about my jokes that I made about him, he directed his staffers at the White House to call Disney.
See, Kimmel doesn't just poke fun at Trump's spray tan or his ridiculous hair, although, let's be honest, those are prime comedy material. He calls Trump out on the stuff that really matters, his corruption, his lies, and his never-ending legal troubles. And that's what really gets under Trump's skin. It's no secret that Trump has been spiraling lately. Between his never-ending court battles, his failing business ventures, and the fact that even Fox News isn't fully backing him anymore, things are looking rough for the former president. So, when Kimmel takes the stage and shreds Trump to pieces with a well-timed joke, it isn't just funny, it's humiliating for Trump. And if there's one thing Trump hates, it's being humiliated.
The report says at least 2 calls were made from the Trump White House to, quote, convey the president's anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. In other words, President Karen demanded to speak to my manager.
That's why he's been desperately trying to silence comedians like Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and even Saturday Night Live. He's even suggested that their jokes should be illegal, as if he thinks he can just ban satire. He's even dragged out the old equal time rule argument, claiming that it's unfair for networks to air so many anti-Trump jokes. But here's the thing, the equal time rule doesn't even apply to comedians. It's about political candidates getting equal airtime, not about whether or not late-night hosts are allowed to make fun of you for being a joke of a president. Trump wants to control the narrative. He wants to silence his critics and make sure nobody calls him out for his failures. But the problem is, he's just too funny to ignore. Every time he throws a tantrum, every time he whines about comedians being mean to him, he just makes it worse for himself.
He said how he's the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards, and this stupid guy goes up, and just before the Best Picture of the Year, the show is almost over. They're waiting for the Best Picture of the Year. He gets up and he says, and his wife said, please don't do it.
You know how some people get so angry they punch a wall? Well, in Donald Trump's case, he apparently prefers throwing ketchup at it. Yes, this actually happened. If you haven't heard about the infamous ketchup tantrum, let me take you on a journey into the unhinged mind of the former president. The story goes like this. Trump was in one of his usual meltdown moods, and this time, it was because his own staff refused to go along with his coup attempt after he lost the 2020 election. He was furious, throwing a tantrum like a spoiled toddler who just found out they can't have ice cream for breakfast. According to reports, Trump was so enraged that he hurled his plate of food at the wall, sending ketchup splattering everywhere. Imagine being a White House staff member who has to deal with this nonsense. You sign up thinking you're going to be part of the most powerful government in the world, and instead, you're scrubbing dried ketchup off the walls because the President of the United States couldn't handle losing. It's both hilarious and deeply embarrassing at the same time.
Isn't that sweet? He's confusing me with one of his sons again. Wow, do you think he's flirting with me? What is this?
And that's where Jimmy Kimmel comes in with pure comedic genius. After hearing about Trump's temper tantrum, Kimmel decided that the best way to remind Trump of his ridiculous behavior was to bring bottles of Heinz ketchup to his court hearings. Imagine this. Trump walks into the courtroom, all puffed up and pretending to be unfazed by his countless legal troubles, and then, bam! He sees Kimmel sitting in the audience, holding up a bottle of ketchup like it's the ultimate symbol of his humiliation. The thought of Trump instantly reliving his meltdown at the sight of ketchup is absolutely priceless. He'd probably turn redder than the bottle itself, his infamous comb-over shifting as he tries to contain his rage. You know he'd start grumbling about how unfair it is, maybe even sending out some furious Truth Social rants about the disrespect and witch hunt against him.
I would like that to be the clip they play at the Emmys in memoriam montage. He even worked my wife in there. Should I be worried that Trump has mentioned my wife more times at his rallies this year than his own?
The best part? There's nothing he can do about it. Kimmel is free to troll him as much as he wants, and ketchup will forever be a symbol of Trump's pathetic outbursts. If there's one thing we know about Jimmy Kimmel, it's that he doesn't back down from a good fight, especially when it involves roasting Donald Trump to a crisp. Now that he knows just how much his jokes get under Trump's skin, he's got every reason to take things up a notch. So what's next? Oh, the possibilities are endless. Kimmel has a treasure trove of material to work with. Trump's never-ending legal battles, his shady business failures, his completely nonsensical rants. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet of comedy gold.
And 6 months ago, he's still stewing over this joke. He keeps bringing it up, which I don't mind at all. In fact, I love it. I just wish he would quote it correctly. I didn't say, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me. What I said was this. I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars?
Trump is currently facing so many court cases, you'd think he was competing for a world record. And every time he steps into a courtroom, he finds a new way to embarrass himself. Kimmel could easily turn this into a running joke, showing up at every trial with a new skit, a fresh roast, or even a special edition ketchup bottle labeled Trump's Tears. Then, of course, there's Trump's history of failed businesses. Trump University? Scam. Trump Steaks? Disaster. Trump Vodka? Literally nobody wanted it. The man has failed at everything except grifting his own supporters. Kimmel could spend weeks making fun of how Trump managed to turn $1 billion inheritance into a string of bankruptcies.
3 times about this. After the game, he wrote, the only one that had a tougher night than the Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. MAGA is very unforgiving. Well, she didn't get booed out of the stadium. Unlike you, she stayed for the whole game. And it was the Eagles fans who were booing her. But you're right. It's all about you. It's always all. Trump's just jealous of Taylor Swift because she has more followers and more money and no kids than he does.
And let's not forget Trump's bizarre rants. If you've ever listened to one of his speeches, you know it sounds like a random word generator malfunctioning. Half the time, he doesn't even finish his own sentences. Kimmel could do an entire show dedicated to translating Trump speak into coherent English. Imagine the segment. What the hell did Trump just say? Featuring classic hits like person, woman, man, camera, TV. The thing is, Kimmel's roasting isn't just for laughs. It's actually driving Trump insane. Trump desperately wants to control how people see him, but every time Kimmel calls him out, it makes it harder for him to keep up the illusion. It's comedy as a weapon, and Trump has no defense against it.